I'm a dad in my 60s, at my door with a blue folder when my phone buzzes. Room is full. After, "You are not coming to Europe," and "Better without you." They want to speak first about my care. I set the chain and say, "Here is my boundary." 6 hours before my flight, I was folding my favorite Navy travel shirt, imagining Paris cafes, when my phone lit up. The shirt held a clean crease from the iron, a habit I picked up on ships where small things mattered. I laid it next to the blue folder, tickets, museum passes, a scribbled list of cafes, then tapped the phone. The lock screen still showed my countdown, flight 221 to JFK, then Paris. 6 hours, 14 minutes, pushed everything else aside. Emily, "Dad, you're not coming. Brad thinks it's better if this vacation stays family only." For a second, I thought the phone had misread. I opened the thread and read it again. The words didn't blink or apologize. They just sat there, neat as a receipt. I thumbed to the wallet app and brought up the boarding pass. Under my name, a bold timestamp, 22:10. The gate number felt like a joke now. I let the screen dim and looked at the shirt instead. I felt the floor tilt the way it does in rough water. Only this time there wasn't a ship under me. I typed, deleted, typed again. Me. What changed? Emily. It's better this way. Transgender. He. I planned this trip. I bought the tickets. Emily. We'll do something later. Later. The word meant never when people were being polite. I set the phone on the dresser and slid the blue folder open. Museum passes, printed confirmations, each page where I'd imagined us standing together. Hushed galleries, sunlight on stone, a lazy lunch after too many stairs. Preparation is its own kind of love. I could see that now because the room had gone very cold without it being returned. The house was quiet except for the small sounds of my life, fridge motor, ceiling fan, the tap of the hanger as I put the shirt back on the hook. I poured coffee I didn't want and stood at the window. My reflection looked like any other man my age on a travel morning. Neat, ready, a little excited. I held the phone up next to that reflection and looked at the thread again. The contrast stung. Me. You said family. I'm your father. Polish. Don't make this harder. Oli. You just did. Uzbek. We'll talk when we're back. I sat on the edge of the bed and set the phone face down like it might leak. The boarding pass glowed up at me from the other screen anyway, a stubborn lighthouse. I took a steadying breath and opened the folder's front sleeve. The prepaid passes peered out. 2 museums on day 1, a walking tour with a guide named Claire on day 2. I imagined Claire asking, "Is everyone here?" And me nodding, lying for my daughter. I carried the folder to the desk and clipped the boarding pass printout to the top. One visible life reduced to paper. My hands didn't shake, they just felt older than they were. I tried calling, it went to voicemail. The recording of her cheerful voice hurt more than the text. I didn't leave a message. Some silences should be left alone so they can be heard. The countdown ticked. 6H05M. I watched it change to 6H04M for reasons I can't defend. Pride is funny. It makes you count the seconds you've been ignored. I placed the phone on the blue folder and lined their edges like I was squaring a picture frame. The room steadied. Systems first, then feelings. That rule had kept me afloat in storms. I took photos of the boarding pass and the museum confirmation and slid the prints into the folder behind the tab I'd labeled Family. My handwriting looked too careful. A man trying not to shake doesn't write better, he writes smaller. The shirt was still waiting. A Navy flag with nowhere to fly. I folded it again slower. I pressed the crease with my palm. It felt like closing a door without slamming it. Me. Final text. I saw your message. Emily. Good. The word good. Burned clean. A small brand I could work around. I set the phone down on the dresser beside my passport. The case hummed once like it had more to say. I didn't flip it. The screen went dark. The passport stayed where it was, blue and ready, while the message on the phone remained unread by anyone but me. I carried the coffee to the kitchen table and set it beside the blue folder. The navy shirt I'd folded so carefully an hour ago hung off the back of a chair now, one sleeve pointing at my laptop like it had something to say. I opened Facebook. Keed rolled past dogs, recipes, and a prayer chain, then froze on the photo that found me. Emily and Brad, both grinning, his parents bookending them, the four of them under a Roman arch I'd circled on our itinerary. The caption in her tone, light as air. Best family trip ever. The timestamp sat in the corner like a judge. Fresh. There was a second photo. Wine glasses and a plate of something twirled and pretty. My eyes kept finding the word family, as if the letters were magnets and I was mostly iron. I took the screenshot. The camera sound made me wince in my own kitchen. I clicked to the airline app out of reflex and brought up the itinerary page. The departure date blinked back at me. Steady, official. Everything I'd put in motion, still marching to a clock I wasn't invited to keep. I toggled back to Facebook, then to the wallet that held the museum passes, then back again. Systems keep you from spinning. Today they only made the spin symmetrical. Uvidum, the back door creaked and my neighbor's sandals whispered across my porch. She appeared in the window with a wave that turned slow when she saw my face. I slid the door open. "Morning, Jack," she said, bright but careful. "Aren't you supposed to be through?" "Apparently not," I said. I kept it even. She glanced at the laptop over my shoulder. The photo was still up. "That's them? That's family," I said. And I didn't mean to make it sound like a new noun, but it arrived that way. She hesitated. "Did something happen?" "Depends who writes it down." And she meant it. Me too. I kept the doorframe between us like a polite barricade. "I'll catch up later." She nodded and retreated. The sandals whispered back across the porch. I sat and looked at the photo again. My daughter's head tilted toward Brad's mother in a way that used to be mine. I remembered holding Emily's handlebars, running behind her down Maple Lane, my breath in her hair as she learned balance. I didn't feel nostalgic. I felt edited. I typed a comment and stared at the empty box. Then I erased it. No arguments in the town square. No one wins a shouting match with strangers who already picked a side. I scrolled down. People I knew, people who knew me, were liking it. A few left hearts. Someone wrote, "So happy for your family." I drank my coffee and tasted metal. My phone vibrated. A single-line text from Emily. No need to make a scene online. So she'd thought of me, but only as a potential mess. I set the phone face down and leaned closer to the screen. The photo's light looked warm, like late afternoon. I imagined the server setting down those glasses and saying something in Italian they didn't understand, but pretended to. I imagined the bill and whose pocket produced a card. I hit print. The page skated out with the timestamp in the corner and her caption in crisp ink. I initialed the bottom and slid it behind the family tab. 1 page. Not a speech, not a plea, just a fact that wouldn't disappear when posts get curated. The navy shirt stared at me from the chair. I reached over and pinched the fabric at the shoulder. The cotton was cool. Being erased in public stings deeper than a private insult. I let the sleeve fall and pushed the chair in until it touched the table leg, a tiny act of control that looked like housekeeping. I thumbed back to the airline screen and highlighted the itinerary date with a fingertip like that would change the reality of it. It didn't. I kept the airline tab open next to Facebook so both truths could sit there and argue without me. Another notification bloomed under the photo. Brad's mom, best kind of trip. I closed my eyes. If Grace was available, this would have been the moment to take it. I didn't. I took a breath instead and spoke to the room. "I'm not posting," I told the air. "I'm recording." I copied the link into a note with the date and time. The keystrokes sounded louder than they should. The house was listening, or maybe I finally was. I slid the blue folder closer and tapped its spine with 2 fingers. The folder wasn't heavy yet, but it would be. I stood, took the mug to the sink, and ran water over the rim until the metal taste disappeared. The phone buzzed again, and I let it. I walked back to the table, looked at the open tabs, and moved the cursor to the little flag icon that bookmarks a thing for later. Freezes. Facebook. I didn't type a word in public. I didn't argue with a caption. I just left the tab open and the bookmark saved, a window that didn't close on command. Stabilized, the house had the sound I recognized from old ships in calm water. Nothing moving, everything pretending to hold. I set the blue folder on the coffee table, squared it with the edge, and tapped "Family" into a fresh tab label. The navy shirt went into the laundry basket like a flag retired without ceremony. Emily's name and hit call. Obierno. Hey, Dad. It is a new country, is a protector prite version to see homed. On the problem of the afternoons together with the complaint closed. Feasting doke in the creased excess. I can get it a see home time. It has the people try to accept it itself, for the pride doesn't snop to get her home. Bright doesn't snop by chased us to entire work on that calm. Like it seem, bright 20. That was the sadder of time and the benefit. We have the moment reduce unnew prom. That is no following engage. You are leading the complain guzzin self and the child and say that. Where one to see home time was thanks, well one d perceived them, he stepped without argents have sounds, in the ignorance and self, can you take that worse? The dozen sen are not getting out neatism, the came failed. Any way he send. One day this work for most, we can bland to wagering possible level or tive. To find that, luckily rocus me he strains with the opportunity, in moment in self and the brand, in moment in craft disease. He's eventually stare at questions of Balin's move board. Her increase assessments to submerge in helps and fams, that is leading in entire work maestry. Person his bad with a computer scene, that you coming. Taily, I said, look at the itinerary I sent you. The tour confirmations, the passes. I did this because I wanted to stand next to you in rooms you'll remember. Dad? Don't dad me like I wandered into your scene by accident. Okay, you know what? This is exactly why we needed boundaries, she said, voice tightening. We can't have you over-involved. I was invited, funded, and edited out in a day. The line clicked, movement, and then his voice arrived full strength. Jack, Brad said, careful and calm, this isn't personal. Everything you do to someone is personal. I kept my tone level, especially when you do it with their money. That's an unfair characterization, he replied, sounding like his lawyer had taught him the phrase. You're taking things out of context. The context is a 4-person photo that used to have space for 5. Look, he said, we can revisit this when we're back. Emotions are high. Right now, we need to protect the experience for my parents. It's their first time here. I'm someone's father on my first time missing it. He gave a soft chuckle that wasn't friendly. Let's not escalate. You already did. Then Emily again, thinner now. Please just don't post anything. We'll handle the story when we get home. Handle the story, I repeated, tasting the word like a coin. Got it. Dad, she said, we love you. We just need space. I don't mind space. I mind subtraction. There was that waiter sound again, plates down, a pen scratched on paper. I pictured the cards sliding from a wallet and wondered which wallet it was. Enjoy your dinner, I said. Can you be reasonable for once? Brad added. You get stuck and you make everything about you. We're setting limits. The only limit I'm setting tonight, I said, is how much of me you can spend without seeing me. See, this, he said, like he'd been waiting for a block quote. Put Emily back on the line. Silence. Then, I'm here, she said. Listen closely. You sent me a sentence that pulled my name from the word family. That's not a boundary. That's an edit. I will not fight you in public. I will not beg to belong, but I will write things down. I don't like when you talk like that, she said, soft as a scold. Baseball, I don't like when you live like this. That's not fair. Fair is the story we tell ourselves when we know who we are in it and it doesn't match the mirror. I didn't say that out loud. I said, we're finished for tonight. Fine, she said, but the fine had the old teenage edge. Travel safe. The closing scramble could turn into another speech about my tendencies. The room hummed in the way rooms do when you remove a sound that used to cover the others. I set the phone beside the folder and pulled the FB printout from Chapter 2's stack. I wrote the date at the bottom and slid it under Family. The paper made a small dry sound as it went in, like someone clearing their throat before the truth. I opened a clean page and wrote a heading, Record. Under it, 3 lines, text exclusion, public post timestamp, call notes, boundaries, healthier, handled the story. I kept the pen moving until the anger felt like it had somewhere to stand without knocking anything over. The blue folder looked ordinary. That was the point. Ordinary things carry the most weight. Keys, bills, a single page with a clean timestamp. I pressed my palm to the cover until I could feel the cardboard warm. Resolve is a temperature you learn to recognize. Mine had just come up to operating range. The phone buzzed again. A follow-up text from Emily. We'll plan something later, the echo of the earlier lie. I let it sit unanswered. Paper first, then people. I capped the pen, tucked it into the folder's spine, and closed the cover. The new tab stuck out neatly, Family, a small blue flag along the edge. I aligned the folder with the coffee table the way I used to align charts on a map desk and pressed the edge down with 2 fingers. The tab snapped shut. Silenced, I wanted numbers, not feelings. I carried the blue folder to my desk and woke the laptop. The home office smelled like old paper and lemon cleaner, the kind of neutral that lets decisions happen. Bank portal, login, 2-factor buzz. The dashboard bloomed with neat balances that suddenly looked like open doors in a bad neighborhood. I clicked account settings, authorized users. And there they were in calm type, Emily Owens and Bradley Pierce. Last modified date from 2 summers ago when I thought help was the same as love. I let the page sit on the screen until the timestamp at the footer rolled to the current minute. Then I hit print. The laser hummed, and a single page slid out. Names, access level, today's date and time in small, honest numbers. I slipped the print under a new tab in the folder and wrote, Money. The cardboard flexed under the pen. The wall calendar above the desk already held HOA through 7 p.m. On a neon sticky, I circled return ETA, Sun, 6:10 p.m. in red and drew a line between the 2 dates like a ladder I meant to climb, 1 rung at a time. Text bubble. Me, you're still listed on my accounts. Constructs. Only for emergencies. Disobedient. The Coliseum isn't an emergency. Emily. Dad, don't be petty. Mike, I'm being precise. Without another ping and opened a blank note. Plan. Allow 1 more international charge to post for timing proof. Revoke after stamp record in hand. Systems before speeches. APK that tray held warm paper. I took the page back out and pressed my thumb to the footer where the time sat like a quiet witness. Then I slid it into money and clipped the tab with a binder clip so it couldn't wander. Next, the battleground. I pulled up the HOA email list and searched agenda. A message from Ruth Delgado, president, sat near the top. New member introductions. Thursday, 7 p.m. Perfectly bland. Perfectly public. I flagged it but didn't reply. I wanted to walk into that room with nothing to explain and everything to show. The navy shirt from yesterday peeked over the laundry basket, a soft reminder that this had started as a trip and turned into arithmetic. Cool anger sharpening into procedure. That line wrote itself in my head and steadied my hands. I stood, pulled a fresh divider from the drawer, and labeled it public. 3 tabs now: family, money, public. A map as simple as it needed to be. I slid the HOA email printout, header only, daytime visible, behind the public tab and closed the folder. The clasp clicked like a seatbelt. Homophobic, the phone buzzed again. Emily, are you really making a thing out of this? Trolley, I'm making a record. Ambiguous. This is why Brad says boundaries. Propane. Stared at the word and typed nothing back. Boundaries don't speak for you. They mark where my responsibility ends. I moved the calendar a half inch so the red circle was centered, then checked my watch. 8:37 a.m. If Rome kept average lunch hours, they'd be ordering soon. Position app banner slid down the top of my phone, casual as weather. Boutique Firenze, pending. For a count of 3, then set the phone face up on the desk and didn't touch it. Let it post. Let the time marry the place. Paper beats spin. I wrote 1 more line in the note. Do not revoke yet. The office felt smaller in a good way, like I'd pulled the walls in around the work. The blue folder's spine faced me, tabs clean as a new set of teeth. I put it at the near edge of the desk, flush with the calendar, and looked at the banner again. Kang still pending. Good. Let it mature. The bank ping came while I was rinsing my mug. Lunch, Florence. The banner slid down my phone like weather. I dried my hands and looked at the blue folder on the table. The money tab waited. I drove to the neighborhood branch where they still knew faces. The lobby smelled like carpet cleaner and coffee. A brass wall clock ticked over the tellers' heads, steady and unconcerned. Next, the teller said. Her nameplate read Amy. I need a printed ledger for my Visa ending in... I caught myself before the numbers and slid my card across. Today's activity, with your stamp. Declaration glanced up, professional neutral. Travel? Mine. Keystrokes. The printer chirped and fed out a narrow stack. She flipped to the last line and whistled softly. Florence. Looks nice. Isn't triage? I said. Mahaz's smile tugged, then vanished. You want the time stamp on each page or the summary? The line, and the branch stamp on the knotted toward the brass clock. That one. She squared the pages, reached for the round stamp, and poised it over the paper. Ready? Bragaz, the clean rubber thud. I watched the face of the brass clock over her shoulder as the second hand crossed the 12. I felt something unclench. Initial anywhere? She asked. I put my initials at the bottom corner and slid the top sheet back to her. Can you mark printed at customer request? Crimson. She wrote it in small, neat letters and added her teller ID, lowered her voice. Family? That's what we're clarifying. Stabilized in small bills and tucked the ledger into the folder at the counter, the money tab swelling a little as the paper settled. Amy's pen scratched on a sticky for me. If you need the manager's card. Nick, I'm good for now, thank you. Back in the car, my phone vibrated, a text from Emily, defensive even in bubble form. Emily, Dad, I saw a fraud alert pop, are you okay? Safeguard. Make. I'm fine, are you? Congest. It was just lunch. Nabel. I have the receipt. Baptized. Emily. Emergency card, Dad. We agreed. Me. We'll disagree on emergency. Tranahoma, she stopped replying. The brass clock image lingered in my head, the stamp sound replaying like a gavel. At home, I set the folder on the desk and opened to money. The pages slid in with that dry paper whisper that always sounds like someone about to tell the truth. I wrote today's date on a sticky, pressed it to the tab, and breathed. Relief edged with anger at being used. I let the feeling be simple and visible to me. The phone rang with an overseas tone. I didn't answer. It went to voicemail, then pinged the transcript. Brad, Jack, it's Brad. We'll sort this when we're back. No reason to get dramatic over lunch. Just relax, okay? We'll handle things. I replayed the stamp in my head. Thud. Brass hand to 12. I placed the phone face down beside the folder and didn't call him back. The house had the feeling of a workshop after hours. Tools set out where the hands left them, one job still on the bench. I carried the blue folder to the den and cleared a rectangle on the desk for what I should have done years ago. The old file cabinet protested when I slid the drawer. Third folder down, labeled in my careful block letters, Account Addenda. I thumbed through refinance papers, warranty slips, the fossil record of a responsible life, and found what I wanted, authorized user agreement, my signature crisp, theirs in younger ink, a date that could still surprise me with how far away it was. I fed it to the copier. The lamp scanned a bar of light across the page like it was reading a secret out loud. The copy slid into the tray with the little date strip stamped neat in the corner. I held both originals together, past and present, then set the copy on the desk and breathed through the impulse to apologize to a room for not doing this sooner. The wall calendar hung to my left. I took a blunt pencil and shaded, Return ETA. 4 days darker until the circle looked like a target. I didn't write anything else. Sometimes you only need one order of business. I laid a photo next to the copy. Emily in our driveway, years ago, reaching for a spare house key I'd pressed into her palm. She wore that post-college smile that could sell a bad plan as a temporary measure. Brad stood just out of frame, a hand on her shoulder the way men do when they want to look like anchors. Flashback isn't memory when it arrives with dialogue. It's tape. Just until we're stable, she said, bright with certainty. Just for emergencies, he added, softening the terms like butter on toast. We'll transfer it later, she promised, eyes shinier than truth. Later ends now, I told the photo, and the words fit my mouth like they had been waiting there. I opened the folder to money and slid the copy behind the teller-stamped ledger from this morning. Chain of custody isn't just a phrase. It's a way to keep your past from escaping its box. I wrote one note on a sticky, original stored, copy filed, date strip visible, and pressed it onto the top edge so the yellow tab peaked like a caution flag. The phone buzzed on the desk, a text from an old coworker with a link to a Navy reunion. I smiled without opening it and let the thought sit. The people who want you don't make you prove it. I sat and let the den settle around me, vent hum, a cicada getting ideas outside the window. Shame visited as it tends to late and calm. You opened the door. It wasn't wrong. I also stood in that same doorway now, and I was the one about to lock it. I pulled up the bank portal again, settings authorized users. The page loaded with the same calm list as this morning. Emily Owens, Bradley Pierce. Last modified stared like an accusation and a dare. I rested my finger on the trackpad without moving it. Freezes from years back replayed, a kitchen argument that pretended not to be. Tad, it's not like we'll need it, Emily said, sliding a shoe on with one foot. It's just in case. In case of what? I asked. In case of life, Brad answered, smiling like he'd said something profound. Life is not a line on my account, I said now, alone in the den, and the room agreed by staying quiet. I reached into the folder's spine and took out the pen. My hand didn't shake when I wrote on a second sticky. Revoke after validation. No calls, no warnings. I set it on the bezel below the screen, so my own instruction blocked any impulse to negotiate. The phone lit again with a new text. Emily this time. Emily. Did you calm down? Me. I'm steady. Emily. We'll revisit finances when we get back. Me. We won't revisit anything I didn't invite. 3 dots. No reply. Good. I picked up the photo of the keys and slid it under the plastic mat on the desk, eye level with where my hands worked. The image of that small silver shape in her palm kept me from romanticizing what had followed. A key opens what you own, or what you were told to guard. It had done neither for too long. I checked the calendar again 4 days, then set an alarm in my phone for sun 6:05 p.m. 5 minutes before the airline's 6:10 arrival, I had circled yesterday. I pictured the porch light clicking on, 2 shadows in my doorway rehearsing concern. My jaw unclenched. The blue folder's money tab had a new heft to it. Ledger, agreement copy, note. I pressed the flap flat and let my palm rest on the cardboard until the warmth traveled back into me. Heart pulse, simple and honest. Shame cooling into resolve. I clicked back to the portal. The cursor drifted to the right place like it had been magnetized all day. Remove user lived there in patient gray. Minimize just until we're stable, her old voice offered from the past. Aid this time to the present. I said. Tom moved the cursor the width of a fingernail and stopped. A good click is earned, not rushed. I let the pointer hover over remove user and took my hand off the mouse. The screen stayed live, my instruction sticky note blocking the bottom edge like a guard. I didn't blink. I didn't need to. I let the page breathe while the cursor waited, exactly where it belonged. The morning light cut across my desk in neat bars, hitting the edge of the blue folder like it had something to say. I slid the last printed page into place, bank revocation confirmation, then tapped the keyboard to bring up the email version. Top corner, 9:15 a.m. Today's date. No ambiguity. Before I could hit save, Emily's name lit the screen. I took the call on speaker, letting my hands keep working. Dad, she started, bright as frosting. I just heard from Brad about the card thing. You must have clicked the wrong setting. Unthinkable. I kept my tone level. It wasn't a mistake. You used it for lunches in Florence. That's not emergency. Her pause was short. We needed flexibility. You're making it awkward. Awkward, I repeated. That's one word for theft. Brad's voice barged in. You're overreacting. You've been stressed, maybe confused. We'll talk about moving you somewhere with more support. The weight in his words was deliberate. I leaned forward, watching my reflection in the monitor beside that blue folder. If you think I'm going quietly, you've never known me. Silence. Then, 3 days, Jack, Brad said flatly. We'll be back then. We'll sort this out in person. I clicked the email attachment open again, letting the bank's header and timestamp fill the screen. Looking forward to it. There was a sharp slam and the line went dead. The dial tone hummed in my ear like a warning bell. I closed the folder, slid it to the center of the desk. 3 days. That was my clock now. The porch boards clicked under my shoes as I stepped outside with the blue folder tucked under my arm. Morning air, a light salt edge from the river, and a neighborhood that pretended not to read each other's business online. I set the folder on the table, opened my laptop, and brought up the HOA email. Subject, agenda, new member introductions. Header line, Thursday 7 p.m. Maritime did more for my blood pressure than any lecture. Rooms with clocks and bylaws save time. I hit print and listened to the page right out through the portable. The house settled behind me like it approved. I slid the warm paper into the public tab, then took it back out again and looked at the header one more time. Thursday 7 p.m. So the hour would stick to my spine. My Bierno God buzzed with a fresh notification from the same echo chamber that posted wine glasses yesterday. I didn't open it. If they wanted an audience, they could have mine on Thursday. I called the HOA president. Ruth answered on the second ring, voice brisk, a neighbor who turns committees into outcomes. Delgado? Jack Owens. I'm on the agenda for introductions. You are, she said. 5 minutes. Name, unit, and if you're joining any committee, keep it friendly. Friendly is my plan, I said. May I hand the board a short packet during my introduction? 1 page plus attachments. Read, curious. If you keep to 5 minutes and don't turn it into debate. No debate, I said. Just clarity. Clarity we like. See you Thursday. Precarious. I felt the chair under me take my weight like it had been waiting to. Quiet confidence, earned by choosing the battleground, not the comment thread. I scrolled to my text messages and sent one to the church treasurer. Letter confirming my current role and responsible decisions. Treasurer. Sensitive? Constrained? Me. Only if truth is sensitive. Underminder. Swing by this afternoon. I'll have it ready for signature. Tay. Another vibration. Emily, again. Can you stop playing hall monitor online? I watched the screen for a second, then darkened it with my thumb. I wasn't going to teach them the difference between record and performance over text. I was going to show it in a room with minutes. I carried the agenda printout inside and laid it on the dining table. The navy shirt still hung off the chair where I'd left it, a flag at half-staff for a trip I didn't take. I didn't touch it. I drew a bold arrow on the print toward new member introductions and wrote 5 min packet in the margin. The ink bled a little into the paper like it wanted more space. It would get it, and with the lazy tone HOA contractors use, I ignored it, let whoever was dropping flyers do their job. I brewed coffee I did want and set the mug on a coaster beside the print. My hand landed on the folder's spine, the familiar cardboard give, before I even thought about it. I called Ruth back for one last detail. Do you want the packet before the meeting starts or at the mic? At the mic, she said, not missing a beat. So it's in the record cleanly. In the record, I repeated, 2 words I hadn't heard anyone in my family use this week. Thank you. Jack, she added, introductions are a positive item. If there's conflict, save it for board business. Andre, I said, boundaries make meetings shorter. She laughed. Quick and I opened the public tab and slid the agenda to the front, so the header line sat where a judge would see it first. Thursday, 7 p.m. I tapped the corner square with my fingertip like a pilot taps a gauge. The blue folder's 3 tabs looked like a small row of teeth. Family, money, public. The bite would come later. Today was about aim. The text thread with Emily blinked again. Emily, if you're planning to embarrass us, don't. I typed, then deleted. Safeguard final. See you Thursday. Three dots appeared, vanished, returned, then nothing. Good. Let the room do the talking. I took a photo of the agenda header with my phone, not for posting for the file, and deleted it after the print went in. Paper beats pixels when people start curating their stories. I sharpened a pencil, wrote intro in block letters on a sticky, and pressed it to the folders outside so I wouldn't fish for the right tab when eyes were on me. I considered, just for the old reflex, writing a long email to explain everything. Then I pictured the brass wall clock over Amy's station at the bank yesterday and heard the stamp again. Truth doesn't need paragraphs. It needs a place to stand. The porch fan ticked. A mockingbird tried 2 wrong notes and found the right one. The agenda lay ready, arrow and all. I placed it on top of public, closed the folder, and set the whole thing where I'd see it every time I crossed the room. Thursday at 7 wasn't far. You could measure it in hours, or in the page count between now and the podium. Either way, the route fit inside a blue spine and a single line at the top of a printed email. Church offices always smell like paper and coffee that's been faithful past its prime. I carried the blue folder down the hall, following the low hum of a copier and the tick of a wall clock that sounded like a conscience. The treasurer's door was propped with a hymnal. "Killing! In!" she called without looking up. Ledger columns marched across her screen like polite soldiers. "Afternoon," I said. "You asked for specifics." Perhaps she swiveled. "I did, Jack. You've handled 2 budget reconciliations, signed off on 3 vendor changes, and flagged a duplicate charge I missed." Her mouth tipped. "I hate that you were right. Accuracy is an equal opportunity offense." Pupils laughed, then reached for a printed page already waiting on the desk. "Here's the letter. Read it and make sure the wording matches what you need. If I've overstated anything, we'll fix it." I took the sheet, 1 page, church letterhead, my name spelled right. It didn't puff me up. It laid me flat in the best way, seen in the context where I'd done the work. I read aloud a line to be sure the air heard it, not just my head. "Mr. Owens currently serves as volunteer co-treasurer and has demonstrated consistent, sound decision-making in budget matters over the past 6 months." She handed me a pen. "Signatures are cheaper than rumors." "True." I slid the page back to her. "Date and sign, please." She uncapped the pen and wrote her name with the kind of penmanship that reminds you schools used to teach adults. Then she added the date in the corner. Today's date, clean and plain, no flourish, just responsibility on paper. "Sensitive?" she asked, eyes searching mine. "Not nosy, protective. Only if truth is sensitive." "Truth makes committees shorter," she said, and slid the letter across. Tile behind her, a wall calendar weighted with fat red markers circling HOAMTG tonight. The ring ate the square like a mouth about to say something that mattered. I tucked the letter into the public tab of the blue folder, then removed it again and glanced at the date one more time like a man who checks his watch before he jumps. My phone buzzed on the desk and skittered an inch. Emily's name, a new message. "Emily, are you still on this? Don't embarrass us tonight." I looked at the treasurer, then back at the phone. I typed, deleted, and typed again. "Me. I'm busy." "Emily. Accurate. 3 dots. Nothing. Good." Sensational raised an eyebrow. "Family?" "Clarifying," I said. I didn't add more. The letter in my hand said enough without adjectives. She pushed a second sheet toward me. "If anyone asks, I can attend the meeting, but if you'd rather not stir the pot, I'd rather keep you out of the splash zone," I said. "Your statement will do the heavy lifting." She nodded. "Then let me give you one suggestion. Keep it short and let the paper talk." "That's the plan." Relief at being seen accurately by someone who knows my work loosened something across my shoulders I hadn't realized I was carrying. We shook hands. Her grip was dry and sure, the way people shake when they've balanced both books and lives for a long time. Out in the hall, the copier hummed again. I took a single copy of the signed page for my own notes, stamped the time in the corner with the office date wheel she kept by the door, and slid the original back into public. The folder's spine felt heavier, even though it didn't weigh more. The weight was what it could do. On the way out, the receptionist waved me down. "Mr. Owens, bake sale moved to Saturday." Normal life continued its tiny weather. "Thanks," I said, and kept moving. The parking lot held heat and the faint sugar smell from the bakery down the street. I opened the truck door and set the folder on the passenger seat. Before I closed it, I checked the letter again. Signature, date. One line that mattered, right there in ink. The Ochomansi Tonight circle flashed in my head like a beacon. Stabilized again as I slid into the driver's seat. "Wilmington, we're getting messages. People talk, Dad." "Go. So does paper." "Emily, you'll regret this." "Undergoing. Accuracy is hard to regret." I put the phone face down, then placed the signed statement on the seat, above the folder, exactly where I'd see it before I drove into that room. I closed the door, tested the lock, and listened to the faint click that said this, at least, would stay where I left it. Paper lay there quietly, doing its job, no speeches, no spin. I pressed the key fob until the truck chirped, took one last look at the signature and date, and stepped back from the window. Suppressing evenings settled over the house like the lid on a box I finally knew how to label. I laid the blue folder open on the desk and spread the contents into straight columns. No speeches, just exhibits. I typed an index page 12 one page only. Raleigh Evidence Paco, Owens, date 7/18. FB screenshot, caption plus timestamp, public exclusion. Bank ledger, stamped. Misuse timing. Authorized user agreement, copy. Terms of access. Revocation confirmation. Access removed, dated. Treasurer letter signed and dated. Competence verification. I printed it and placed the dated cover sheet index on top. One visible cue. One page that told the room how to read the rest. The printer cooled, as if it too had said enough. Text from Emily. Emily. Brad says you're winding people up for no reason. Me. I'm organizing paper. Cool of yourself. Forged a fur doesn't blush. 3 dots. Then nothing. Power tilts quietly when you stop performing for it. I called Ruth Delgado. Wilmington. Delgado. Jack Owens, thank you for confirming my introduction slot on Thursday. 5 minutes, she said. Name, unit, committee interest, keep it friendly. Discharged. 5 minutes is all I'll need. 1 sheet to hand the board. Packet clip behind it. I'll pass it to you at the mic. Abasho, she said. No debate. Understood? Not asking the room to vote on my family. I'm entering facts into the record. Shiln, she was silent for a beat that felt like respect. See you then, Mr. Owens. Tarted the phone down and ran a wide elastic band around the folder. The cardboard flexed, then held, the way good restraints do. Tight enough to travel, loose enough not to warp what they protect. I slipped each exhibit into a clear sleeve, not to show off, but to prevent smudges and arguments about handling. Procedures keep people honest. I read the index out loud once, clean and steady, then slid the treasurer's letter behind it. Signature and date in the lower right. Ink that would still be ink when comments disappeared. Position made its evening noises, the water heater taking a breath, the porch fan ticking, a car door 2 houses over. Calm, satisfaction, sharpened into purpose. Everything they took, I've taken back on paper. I called Ruth back for one last check. Packet at the mic? Forging at the mic, she repeated. Our secretary will mark it received. Perfect, I'll keep to time. Fuse due, she said, with the neighbor's half-smile in her voice. I ended the call and stood. The folder looked heavier than it was. I tested the clasp, then added the elastic again, crossing it so the spine wore an X. If anyone wondered whether I was serious, the answer could be read without a single sentence. Another text landed from Emily. Undermine. Don't you dare humiliate us in front of the HOA. Undermined. Me, I won't. Emily, good. Jung, me, the facts will. Or the next bubble. I rehearsed the first line into the quiet. Before you meet them, hurricanes came out level, not loud. They didn't need to be. A good opening line is a key. It doesn't bang. It turns. I slipped the index back on top and clipped the packet. Then I walked it to the front hall and set the banded folder by the door, exactly where my hand would find it without thinking. The elastic made a soft rasp against the wood. I looked at it until my breathing matched the room. Safeguard reminder chimed on the console table. Return ETA. Sun, 6:10 p.m. The clock on the screen pulsed, then went still. I let it sit there, lit. The next time it chimed, I'd be standing in a doorway with evidence instead of explanations. Ruth slid into the booth across from me, the late afternoon sunlight catching the blue folder by my elbow. She didn't look at it. She'd noticed it enough times over the past week to know it was part of my uniform now. Did he sign? I asked. She nodded toward the man at the counter. Go on, he's waiting for you. Punished, the HOA treasurer was a precise man, all squared edges and clipped words. He pulled a single sheet from a manila envelope, the HOA letterhead sharp against the paper. His pen hovered for a beat, then scratched his name in a decisive sweep. The date beneath it, Monday, 3:45 p.m., was bold enough to catch the eye from across the table. Keep the original, he said. I'll send the copy to the board before the meeting. Roofing tasted like fresh coffee, but only for a moment. I slipped the letter into the blue folder and zipped it shut, my hand lingering on the pull. Ruth leaned in. Thursday night, I'll be there, in the front row. Before I could thank her, my phone lit up. Emily. I answered. Yes. Her voice came smooth. Dad, I've heard from a couple of board members. They're concerned about how you're handling things. They'll have the truth in front of them on Thursday. Hisen matters, Dad. You know that. Perception bends when the truth walks in. Silence, then the faint sound of Brad in the background. Emily's tone cooled. We'll see. She hung up before I could return the favor. Row furrowed. She's working angles. She's always worked angles, I said. This time, mine are sharper. Happy, the blue folder tucked under my arm like a shield. As I stepped into the cooling air, Ruth caught my sleeve. There's one more thing about Thursday, she started, then shook her head. Better tell you later. I heard the car doors before the knock. 2 thuds, a quick stage whisper, then the practice rhythm of people who come to win the doorstep. I picked up the blue folder from the console table and opened to public. The treasurer's letter sat on top, signature neat, today's date steady in the lower right. I didn't take it out. I just let the ink show when the cover bent. The doorbell chimed. I cracked the door, kept the chain. Crash people do when they've already told the story to themselves. Brad stood half a step behind, jaw set like a prop. Dad, she said, we need to come in and talk. We'll talk right here. Brad leaned toward the chain. This is ridiculous. We're family. You edited me out of the word, I said. We're staying on the porch. He flicked a hand toward the driveway. Neighbors are watching. Problem for the truth. Emily tried sweet again. We're worried about you. Then stop spending me. She flushed. That was an emergency. Lunch in Florence is a cuisine. Brad took over. Either we come in or we call someone who can make decisions for you. I let the folder tilt so the treasurer's letter caught the light. Someone already has, I said. Me. He squinted at the page. Church stationery? Repost a signed statement, I said, from the person who sees my decisions every week. I didn't hand it over. Paper travels in one direction today, into my hand, into the record. Dad, Emily said, small now, this is getting out of hand. You got out of hand abroad. I stayed put and kept records. She glanced past me, trying to see inside, to measure how much of my life could still be rearranged without moving a couch. We'll be quick, she said. 5 minutes. You'll be quicker on the porch, I said. 2 minutes. Here are your choices. We speak in the open, or we speak when the board can hear us. That's in 2 days. I held up my phone. The calendar block stared back. HOA, Thursday 7 p.m. Brad snorted. You think a condo board is a courtroom? I think it keeps minutes. He stepped closer, voice dropping to that managerial calm he wears like a badge. Let us in. No. I let the word land and stay. Pride edged with fear rose in my chest and steadied like a level. You can't walk into a life you're no longer welcome in. For a beat, all 3 of us listened to the air move between the screen and the chain. From across the street, Mrs. Daniels paused with her mail. She lifted a hand, polite, then pretended to read an envelope that had no stamp. She could hear the shape of our voices, if not every word. A witness without an oath is still a witness. Emily tried one more turn of the old key. I'm your daughter. And I am the owner of this house, I said even, not loud. No entry today. Brad's mouth pulled tightical. No, I said, I'm making a boundary. He glanced at Mrs. Daniels and made a small, theatrical shrug for her benefit. We tried, he said too brightly. He won't let us help. Brad, I said, save the performance for Thursday. There'll be better seats. Fine, he snapped, but if you won't let us in, we're calling the doctor. We'll start the evaluation. Call whoever you like, I said. Bring whoever you like. Bring a notary while you're at it. Bring your patients. Emily's eyes glistened the way they do when she wants the room to pick her. Why are you doing this? Because you taught me how, I said. In captions, in charges, in threats. I'm answering with paper and a chain. She looked at the folder again, then at my hand on the door. We'll see you Thursday, she said, a promise and a warning. I'll see the room, I said. You can stand in it. They didn't move, the quiet stretched. A mockingbird tried a new phrase on the power line and failed twice before it found the note. Brad finally exhaled to his nose and turned for the steps. Emily followed, then pivoted back, as if saying something kind might rewind the porch. We love you. Love isn't a key card, I said. It doesn't open what you closed. She flinched, then went down the steps without another word. The gravel snapped under their shoes. At the curb, Brad fired up the engine too hard and backed out like he wanted the street to know who lost. I closed the door to the chain and stood with my hands still on the knob, listening to the car wind away. The house exhaled. Through the sidelight, Mrs. Daniels raised her mail again, this time with a real wave. I nodded once and let the blue folder fall flat against my palm. On the treasurer's letter, the date waited in plain ink. I slid it back into public and reset the phone in the table, so Demanis 2 still filled the screen. The doorbell camera had caught our bodies and half our words. The rest would be carried by the neighbor who'd wanted to hear and heard enough. I unhooked the chain long enough to test the latch. The click was small, but it carried. I stepped back from the door and left the porch quiet behind it. The bell over the coffee shop door gave that friendly little lie it tells everyone. Heads turned anyway. A couple at the window stopped mid-sip. The barista's smile held, then tilted. Morning, Mr. Owens, she said, already tamping espresso. How are you feeling? Caffeinated. In about 20 seconds, I said. Position from the HOA pickleball group slid in beside me at the pickup rail. Heard you had a moment on your porch yesterday, he said, voice pitched to concern. Emily mentioned she's worried. Worry is cheap, I said. Truth costs paper. He gave a small wince. People are saying maybe you've been forgetful. I took the lidless cup and looked him in the eye. Write this down for people. I keep receipts. He retreated with a nod that meant he wouldn't, then would tell someone he had. At a corner table, two neighbors pretended their phones were more interesting than me. One whispered, "Doctor," like the word could float. Isolation bit hard. My spine stayed straight. My phone buzzed. Emily, we're just trying to make sure you're okay. People care. Me, don't confuse concern with control. Backstage, you've sounded confused lately. We told the board we're handling it. Me, you handled lunch in Florence. I'll handle Thursday. Confiscated. Just the tiny delivered checkmark that thinks it's final. I finished the coffee without tasting it and walked home the long way, letting every porch and mailbox remind me what a neighborhood really is. Addresses and eyes. The blue folder waited on my desk like a patient witness. I opened a fresh divider and wrote "Security" on the tab. The doorbell app had the porch scene right where I left it. I scrubbed the playback bar to the middle and watched yesterday frame itself. Emily's smile practiced to be readable from the street. Brad half a step behind, my hands steady on the chain. The audio caught more than I expected. You can't walk into a life you're no longer welcome in, I heard my own voice say again. It didn't sound angry. It sounded awake. A new banner stacked above the timeline. Shareable clip. I tapped export and the dialog popped. File name field blinking. Stabilize. Porch Bedford Usual. D2. 171132. .mp4 and glanced at the calendar block pinned to my phone. HOA. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. D1. Every clock in my life had gotten very clear. Exporting. 0%. The thumbnail in the corner showed Emily looking past me into a house she didn't get to count. The timestamp overlay burned in the bottom right like a lighthouse. 17:11:32. Abolish phone buzzed again. We posted an update so people won't be alarmed. Just said we're coordinating your care. Tar, you're coordinating a narrative? Emily, you're being unkind? Me, I'm being accurate. Accuracy isn't unkind. Across the street, a mower started up, steady as a metronome. Export ticked to 23%. I pulled a blank USB from the drawer, slid a label into its little window, and printed, porch clip, D-1. It clicked into the port like it meant it. The bar on the screen crept, 41%. I leaned back and let the house talk, fan, fridge, one bird trying on a new phrase outside. I thought about the coffee shop, how quickly a "how are you feeling" can carry a diagnosis if you let it. I thought about paper and cardboard and stamps and a blue spine that had done more for me this week than 100 apologies. Another text. Not Emily this time. HOA acquaintance, heard you might bring Mantis materials tomorrow. Just keep it friendly. Cling, me. Friendly is the plan, clear is the goal. 72%. I opened the public tab, counted the sleeves, index, FB screenshot, bank ledger with stamp, agreement copy with copier date, revoke email with timestamp, treasurer letter with signature and date. Then the new security sleeve waited thin and expectant. I slipped the labeled USB case into it and left the slot empty for now. You don't holster a thing until it's finished. Conserve export window flashed and stuttered, like software does when it wants attention. Preventive. We're stopping by later to check on you. Prosecute. Me. Don't. Emily. You can't keep us from our family home. Programmers. This is my home. The chain knows the difference. No dots this time either, good. Let silence do some work. 89%. I opened the doorbell app's metadata pane and verified what a room will ask when people start softening facts. Date, time, device ID. 1Q only. Time would be enough for tomorrow. The rest could stay in reserve unless someone decided to get creative. Bankers hovered over. Save to USB. I clicked. The export window reset with a second bar for the transfer. I watched both climb like twin ladders. Heart pulse, simple and unsentimental. Isolation bit hard, my spine stayed straight. I stacked the blue folders tabs with my thumb, family, money, public, security, and imagined them as teeth again, not to bite anyone, just to bite down on the truth so it didn't slip. The mower cut off. The house went quiet enough to hear the fans inside the laptop. 97%. One more text arrived like a drum roll. Kang. We love you, Dad. Please don't make a scene. Buffering. Me. I'm bringing a record, not a scene. The progress bar slid the last few pixels. The file name punched itself onto the USB's directory. Porch _ refusal _ D2 _ 17 1132. MP4, the overlay time glowed in the thumbnail. The smaller transfer bar hit the end and pinged. Forged. 100%. Abolished. I ejected the drive, capped it, and slid it into the security sleeve. The label showed through the plastic like a warning and a promise. I set the folder closed on the desk and pressed my palm to the cover until the cardboard warmed. Tomorrow at 7, in a room with minutes, I'd let paper and pixels speak a language gossip can't. At 5 o'clock, the house felt like a held breath. I set the blue folder on the console table and tightened the elastic X until the cardboard sang a little. I flipped the tabs with my thumb, family, money, public, security, counting them like beads. Every shove landed this hour. My hands stayed steady. Is Carla from First River Bank? Am I speaking with Mr. Owens? You are. We've logged 2 password reset attempts on your online profile, and a dispute opened on a Florence restaurant charge. Did you initiate either? Did not. Refusal then will lock the profile and flag the dispute. You'll see a text to confirm. Tidig, do it, I said, and please note the time. Her keyboard clicked. Confirmed at 5:21 p.m., Mr. Owens. Anything else? Yes, thank you for being specific. I wrote one calm line on a sticky, bank lock, 5:21 p.m., and stuck it to the money tab. The doorbell camera preview blinked on its own, catching nothing but my front walk, ordinary as a postcard. A knock. Not the door, my side window. I slid it up an inch. Mrs. Daniels lifted her mail like a prop. You decent for a second? Works, I said. They're saying you're not well, she said, low enough to keep it neighborly, that there's some evaluation being arranged. I kept my voice level. There's a meeting at 7. If you want to know how well I am, you can watch me keep time. She nodded once. Room's going to be full. She tapped her stack of envelopes. I'll be there, back row. Titan thrummed with Emily's name. We're going to open the meeting to clarify your condition. You're not on the agenda. We spoke to people. They want to hear from us first for your safety. If your story needs to go first, maybe it can't stand last. Take 3 dots flickered. Then a new text. This one from Ruth. Ruth, HOA. Heads up. Attempted addition to the agenda. Denied. Introductions only. 5 minutes each. Her message carried its own proof. 5:42 p.m. stamped under the bubble. I took a screenshot and slid the phone beside the folder. Procedure beats performance. Emily returned. Emily, this is why we're worried. You're being oppositional. Me, I'm being chronological. See you at 7. Silence. A car passed, bass low enough to rumble the picture frames. I straightened one for the satisfaction of it. Car text arrived next. Profile locked. I didn't open it. 1 doc beat per chapter. Ruth's timestamp was enough. I turned instead to the mirror beside the door, adjusted my collar, and practiced the first breath of my line, not the line itself. The breath matters more. Another call, unknown local. I let it go to voicemail. It transcribed, fast, eager. Brad, Jack, this isn't how family acts. We'll explain everything at the meeting. We're concerned, and people listen when we're concerned. I deleted it without saving and set the phone face down until the vibration pattern stopped trying to be important. The sun slid down the wall an inch. I checked the folder clasp again and pictured the room. Chairs, a clock, Ruth's gavel in reach but not needed. The house made its small evening noises. Somewhere a kid laughed at a joke I hope stays funny for him his whole life. Inch of the hour bed, which is bat unadorned, was help of comes to him to rents on the neighbor head down, or round up the fars. And every shove landed. My hands stayed steady. A final message buzzed. Ruth again. Short and neighborly. Room is full. See you at 7. I lifted the phone and the lock screen woke. Today, 6:12 p.m. Under it, my reminder badge blinked. Unnecessary truth. Return ETA, 6:10 p.m. Already passed, the plane down, the collision close. I picked up the blue folder, felt the elastic bite my palm, and opened the door. Had the smell of folding chairs and fresh agendas. A wall clock watched over us, the second hand ticking toward the top. When it hit 7 o'clock, Ruth tapped the mic. Call to order. New member introductions. She glanced down the list. Jack Owens. I stood with the blue folder under my arm and walked to the podium. The elastic X rasped against cardboard as I set it down. Faces I've known for years turned toward me. A few eyebrows held questions they'd already practiced. I found the clock again, then Ruth, then my breath. Good evening, I said. Jack Owens, Maple Court. Before you meet them, I let the room lean in. This is for the record. I turned the folder, opened it toward Ruth, and placed the clip packet in her hands. 1 doc beat clean. Signatures and notary stamps bright against the top sheets. She flipped a page, eyes narrowing at the seal impressions. Then another at a dated signature. The room rustled like paper. Mr. Owens, Ruth said, voice measured. You're entering facts, I said. 1 page, index, exhibits behind it. Sponsorship withdrawals processed. Bank access revoked, by me, stamped. Authorized user terms copied and date stamped. Competence letter from our church treasurer, signed and dated. A media clip on a labeled drive if required. I set the small USB on the podium edge without touching it again. 5 minutes is plenty. Minimized. From the third row, Brad rose half a foot from his chair. Point of order. Gogol touched wood, but didn't strike. Mr. Pierce, this is introductions, no additions. It concerns health, he said smoothly. We should be allowed to say, unmarried said plenty online, I said into the mic, voice steady. For my safety. Miss Under murmur ran the back wall. Mrs. Daniels lifted a hand from the last row. Ruth nodded. Mrs. Daniels? I was there yesterday, she said, simple as soup. He was clear. Brayu tried again. We're his family. Then at Emily beside him, hands tight on her bag. You edited me out of that word last week, I said. Tonight I'm putting the word back where it belongs. Emily swallowed. Dad, not here. Here is the point, I said. In a room with minutes. I touched the index with one finger so the stamps and signatures caught the fluorescent glare. Here is my boundary. Pepped another page, found the treasurer's letter, and read the single sentence that mattered. Mr. Owens has demonstrated consistent, sound decision-making in budget matters. She looked up. Thank you. Brad said, the floor under him beginning to tilt. He's confused. Housekeeping, I said, calm enough to scare myself. Ruth, the board accepts the packet? We do, she said. The secretary's pen started moving. Then my introduction is complete. I nodded toward Emily and Brad. You speak for yourselves, not for me. You no longer have access to my money, my home, or my standing in this community. The answer hit. In the second row, someone exhaled a laugh they weren't expecting. Brad's voice shrank a size. Jack, come on, let's just step outside and... No, I said, still on mic. Outside is where stories get bent. In here we use paper. Breaking's face blanched. She looked down at her lap, then back at me with a wet, bewildered smile that tried to remember a better script. I didn't mean to hurt you. You meant to go first, I said, and to speak for me. Both are over. Ifted the top pages again, the notary seal catching the light. These are in order, she said. The board recognizes Mr. Owen's submission. Brad's shoulders finally dipped, the first honest movement I'd seen from him in days. He reached for Emily's hand and missed by an inch before finding it. I'm sorry for the confusion, he said, voice smaller than the chair he was in. We overstepped. He tried to smile at the room, got no purchase, and let it fall. The back row shifted, Ruth's husband nodding once, the pickleball group failing to hide their satisfaction, Mrs. Daniels folding her arms like she'd just finished a chore and liked the result. In the doorway, two latecomers stopped and stayed, drawn by the heat. Heart pulse, true and simple. Relief came with a spine. Pride, too, but the quiet kind. Ruth tapped her agenda. Thank you, Mr. Owens. Next introduction. Dawn, Brad said, now truly off script. We love him. We were trying. Sir, Ruth said, eyes gentle and implacable. Introductions only. You'll have your time. She turned back to me and lowered her voice for the mic. We have your packet. Reclaiming the blue folder, now lighter by exactly what it should have left behind. I didn't look back at them as I stepped away from the podium. I looked at the wall clock instead. 7:06. 6 minutes to change a room isn't bad. As I passed the front row, someone touched my sleeve. Glad you spoke, Jack, the man said. We wondered. You don't have to, I said. Not anymore. Ruth's gavel came down, tidy as a stamp. Next. Behind me, Emily whispered just loud enough to reach the mic's edge. Dad, The word didn't finish. Her eyes found mine and then the floor. Brad squeezed her hand, his face a map of recoil and calculation that had run out of roads. The room kept moving, papers shuffling, pens catching up to the moment, the board secretary initialing the index. I took my seat at the aisle, the USB still untouched where I'd left it, the stamps and signatures doing exactly what pictures and post couldn't. Friday light came in clean and square across the kitchen table. The laptop chimed, and an email slid to the top like a verdict. Subject, HOA, approved minutes, header line, posted 10:04 a.m. I opened it and read the sentence that mattered twice, once for the room yesterday and once for the quiet now. Packet received from member Jack Owens. Exhibits entered to record. No adjectives, just the weight-bearing nouns. I hit print. The page wrote out warm, the 10:04 a.m. time sitting in the corner like a polite guard. I clipped it to the front of public and let the ink cool while the coffee did the same. The phone rang with a bank number. Mr. Owens, this is Carla at First River. Quick update. Your profile protections are locked, and the Florence lunch dispute is denied. We've added a note regarding unauthorized use by removed users. Minimized, I said. Notes keep memories honest. Concord will email written confirmation. Please do. Farudgo. I set the phone down and breathed. Heart pulse plain as a receipt. Quiet satisfaction without gloating, just air moving easier. I typed a short note and printed it. Contact terms email only. No financial access. No unannounced visits. Porch conversations only. No entry without consent. I signed it, took a photo from my own file, and slid the original behind family. Boundaries aren't threats, they're instructions. The doorbell chimed once, quick as a question. I opened to the chain. Emily stood alone, hands clasped. Brad waited by the sidewalk like a bad idea reconsidered. I'm not here to argue, she said. Brad's sorry. I'm sorry. We just want to make sure we can coordinate things. Bills, church stuff, maybe a small card for emergencies? No, I said, bills are mine. Church knows me. Emergencies don't begin with shopping. Unreasonable, then tried a softer angle. Can we at least have access to check on you? A spare key? You held up the contact terms through the gap. Email, porch only, no key. If you need something in writing, this is the something. Like they were in a language she used to speak. We're trying to help, she said, eyes shining without falling. Help is what you give when asked, I said. If you need to do more, volunteer at the food pantry. Behind her, Brad lifted a hand in a half wave that meant, I'll wait, and I'm sorry in a dialect I don't accept over a curb. He didn't step closer. He didn't say a word. We saw the minutes, Emily said. People are talking. They can read, I said. So can you. Creer looked at the folder in my hand like it was heavy and dangerous, and also her past. Will you call me later? She asked. I'll email you the contact terms, I said. That's the channel now. Her mouth pressed into the shape of a habit she couldn't use. Okay. She backed off the step and joined Brad. They stood for a beat, then left without the theater, which might be the closest thing to respect I've had from them in a long time. I closed the door, unhooked the chain, and took the HOA approved minutes page to the desk. The blue folder was waiting, edges a touch softened from the week. I placed the minutes on top, so the 10:04 a.m. corner showed, then walked it to the file cabinet. Tag, I pulled an empty spine label from the drawer and wrote in block letters, Resolved, HOA/family access. The adhesive fought me for a moment, then settled straight. I removed the elastic X, flattened the tabs with my palm, family/money/public/security, and slid the folder into the cabinet. It landed with a quiet, satisfying thunk, the sound a shelf makes when it agrees. The bank email arrived. Subject, confirmation profile, lock and dispute decision. I printed the header page and filed it behind money before the cabinet closed, then let the desk be just a desk again. Unresolved, I drafted a short email to Emily and Brad. Subject, contact terms going forward. Reluctance. Email only. No financial access, no unannounced visits. Porch conversations only by appointment. This is not punitive, it is protective. If you need me, write. I'll read. I attached a PDF of the signed page and sent it. The whoosh sounded like closure without the confetti. Tay, outside, a delivery truck hissed, and somewhere a neighbor's wind chime tried out a tune. I rinsed the coffee cup and placed it upside down to dry. The house felt done. Not empty, just idle, the way a good engine does when you've taken your foot off the gas. The laptop pinged again, Ruth forwarding the finalized PDF of the minutes. For your files. I thanked her in one line and didn't try to add wisdom. The record didn't need my summary. On the console table, my phone buzzed with a text banner. Emily, can we? The ellipsis pulsed, then froze. I didn't open it. I placed the phone face down beside the dry mug and looked at the cabinet door instead, the new spine label visible through the slot like a small flag I didn't have to wave. Fiberglass by Eving, the house was simply mine again, quiet, useful, honest. Patience turned anger into paper, and paper turned concern into distance. I'm not better without anyone. I'm better with boundaries and time. I shelved the blue folder and listened to the cabinet accept it with a clean, final thok. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Type 1 if you resonate with this story.